Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's see. There. I guess that'll work. As you can tell from the titles of my books, I like to write about secret subjects, preferably very challenging subjects that have consequences for society. I might be perverse because if the subject is too easy, I don't want to do it. And this sometimes gets me into trouble. When I did a book called Moscow Station, I revealed that a KGB archivist had defected to the FBI. Usually they defect to the CIA, but this person wanted to defect to the FBI. And I knew that he was safe. He was in the United States. Nevertheless, I heard from inside the FBI that they'd opened a leak investigation and that they're going to send agents out to my house to try to interview me. So I went through in my mind how I would greet them, I would offer them coffee, I would schmooze them, and I would try to develop them as sources. Well, I, having done several books on the FBI and covered the FBI at the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Boston Herald, thought that I knew what FBI agents looked like, which of course is silly. But nevertheless, a few days later, there was a ring at my bell in Potomac, Maryland, which is a very quiet place. Very few people ring the bell. I opened the door, and there were these two very intense-looking young men with narrow ties and white shirts. And I said, well, where have you been? I've been expecting you. Come on in. And they looked at me a little strangely, a little scared maybe, and they held out these pamphlets, The Watchtower. You might have thought that I planned the individual who ran across the White House lawn to get into the White House to get publicity for my book. That's not true, but on the other hand, in my book, I did predict a lot of the scandals that we see now based on the corner cutting and laxness of the Secret Service. It's not the agents who are actually brave and dedicated and will take a bullet for the president. It's rather the management that has created a culture that rewards agents for keeping their mouths shut and perpetrating the myth that the Secret Service is invincible, and on the other hand, punishes agents who point out deficiencies, who point out problems, who even point out potential threats. But a major focus of the book is what agents see behind the scenes, because they really get to know the real character of our leaders, and that can be pretty shocking. For example, Hillary Clinton is so nasty to agents who protect her that being assigned to her detail is actually considered a form of punishment. It is the worst assignment in the Secret Service. And yet here's this woman who claims to be compassionate, care about little people, she's going to be a champion of the middle class, and yet behind the scenes she treats those very same people with contempt. What does that tell you about her character and how we should choose our presidents? Do we choose them on how well they smile on TV, what they promise, which often they renege on? Or do we choose them on the same criteria that we use in the rest of our lives? When we choose a friend, we choose a new employee, anybody in our lives, we choose them based on their character. We would never associate it with someone who treated people who helped them with nastiness and with contempt. And we treat them, and we select them on track record. What have they actually done? What have they accomplished, or what have they not accomplished? And so that's why you learn a lot in this book about how we should be choosing our presidents. It is a totally apolitical book. The book says that President Obama and Michelle Obama treat their agents with respect and consideration. They'll invite them to dinner. On the other hand, agents have been dismayed to overhear Michelle Obama urge her husband to be more aggressive in attacking Republicans and siding with blacks in racial controversies. The book reveals that Joe Biden, first of all, likes to skinny dip, which offends female Secret Service agents. This occurs both at his home at the Vice President's residence in Washington and also his home in Wilmington, Delaware. More seriously, when Biden goes back to Wilmington, which he does several times a week, and that's another issue, he will order agents to keep the military aide with a nuclear football at least a mile behind in the motorcade, because he wants to have this image of the regular Joe. He's a man of the people, so he doesn't want to have a big motorcade. But meanwhile, if President Obama were taken out, we would be totally defenseless against a nuclear attack, because there would not be time for the military aide with a football to catch up with Biden so that he could unleash a retaliatory strike. On top of all that, it has cost we, the taxpayers, $1 million for Biden's trips on Air Force Two back and forth to Wilmington. You know, it's one thing to go back and forth a few times a year to your home, but he has a vice president's residence in Washington that we pay for, including 5 Navy stewards who take care of every need, including making pastries every night. Biden treats Air Force Two like his personal taxi. Sometimes he'll even go back and forth twice in one day. Sometimes he'll even go back just to play golf with Obama and then go back to Wilmington. And the cost has been $1 million since Biden took office. And at the same time, Biden claims to be the sheriff who's going to reduce government costs. So this is the hypocrisy that goes on that you see in the book, The First Family Detail. In contrast, President Reagan was one of the nicest presidents. He would spend time schmoozing with agents. He would, whenever he went into Air Force One, go into the cockpit and greet the pilots. He would remember their kids' names, whereas Jimmy Carter did that only once in his whole 4-year term. Jimmy Carter was another phony. He would pretend to be this populist, good old boy peanut farmer, a man of the people, and yet he told his agents he didn't want them to say hello to him in the morning on the way to the Oval Office. Apparently it was just too much bother to say hello back to another human being. He would pretend to carry his own luggage in front of the cameras, but as soon as the cameras were gone, he would give the luggage to aides to carry, or he would, or the luggage would actually be empty. Sometimes he would come into the Oval Office at 5 in the morning and tell the press office to tell the press that he was in there working hard for the American people in the Oval Office at 5 a.m., but he would fall asleep on the sofa and Secret Service agents would see him doze off. So these are character traits that aren't always obvious to the public. They're secret in many cases, but when we do know about them, we need to pay attention. Reagan one day was going into the elevator at the residence, and an aide came up to him and told him that Donna Rice's affair with Gary Hart, who was running for president, was about to be in the paper the next day. And Reagan said, well, boys will be boys. But then he went up in the elevator with this agent, and as he was getting out, he said to the agent, but boys will not be president. After Reagan was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, he said to an agent, well, there must be some positive side to this. Maybe I'll meet a new friend every day. So that was the great optimism of President Reagan. The book reveals that the reason that John Hinckley was able to shoot President Reagan is that the Reagan White House staff overruled the Secret Service to let spectators within 15 feet of Reagan as he came out of the Washington Hilton, totally unscreened. And the Secret Service did not want that, but they caved spinelessly to what the Reagan White House wanted. So ironically, it was Reagan's own staff that really caused the assassination attempt, and this has never come out before. It's confirmed on the record both by the agent who was assigned to teach what they call the Reagan attempt at the Secret Service training facility, and also by Peter Wallison, who did a report for the Treasury Department when he was general counsel. The Secret Service was then within Treasury. The report never said that it was Reagan's White House staff that was responsible for this. Wallison later became White House counsel under Reagan, and he confirmed on the record as well that that is exactly what happened. Going back, Lyndon Johnson was totally out of control.